Hi everyone, Tom Wolf here. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I created this grainy soundbed in Omnisphere. And mod wheel. Okay, so you can hear we've got this kind of grainy, dark, textural soundbed, which has got a lot of kind of lo-fi character to it. This patch comes from my new set, Fractal Part 2, and Fractal Part 2 is sort of based around these kind of lo-fi industrial textures, heavily inspired by the scores of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross and the Nine Inch Nails Ghosts albums. So you can hear that kind of ethereal, grainy, lo-fi kind of industrial quality to the patches. So this is actually quite an easy one to make. It's not as difficult and complex as it sounds. As you'll see, the sort of inbuilt sound sources in Omnisphere allow for you to create some really complex sounds without too much difficulty. So over here on Multi 1, I've already dismantled the patch. So let's have a listen to how I created it. So here on layer A, we're using a sample called Pressure Node 3. And as with all the samples, this is one that is actually built into Omnisphere's sound source library. There's several pressure node sound sources in here, and they've all got a slightly different quality. But as you can see in the description, they've been created using software tools and Reactor ensembles. So they're all kind of based in the digital realm, and they've used Reactor to create these really kind of interesting sound sources. So this is what this sound source sounds like. Okay, so let's just turn that up a little. So as you can hear, we've got this really kind of lo-fi textural sound there, which is where we get the kind of graininess in the patch. It's a really nice kind of sound source with some kind of randomized bits in there and a slight tonal quality, but it's also got these kind of atonal elements to it as well. So to create this patch, firstly, I've adjusted the amp envelope, so we've got quite a slow attack, a slightly longer release, not too long. I'm then going to run it through the filter. So let's switch the filter on, and you can see we've got its modified filter. So in filter 1, we've got a UVI 2, and in filter 2, we've got a UVI 3. They're running in parallel, and we've got the mix set to 71% filter 1. So we're mostly going to be hearing the UVI 2 with a little bit of flavour from the UVI 3. We've got the cutoff offset set to halfway, just under halfway on UVI 3, and we've got a little bit of resonance offset as well on the UVI 3. We've got the cutoff set to about a third, and then we've got a little bit of resonance here as well. So let's hear how that sounds. So we've already removed that kind of noisy top there. So that just gives us a little bit of character while removing that top edge. We've also got the envelope set to just over halfway, so our filter envelope is set to exactly the same as our amp envelope. So we're going to be opening the filter up slightly as we hit the key. The next thing that I had on this is the granular engine. So as you probably know, I absolutely love the granular engine in Omnisphere, and it works really well with these kind of unique sound sources to create something a little bit interesting. So we'll switch the granular engine on, and as you can see, I've got it set to legacy mode. So this is the mode that I think it's either from Omnisphere 1 or it could be from Atmosphere, the precursor to Omnisphere. And this has a different characteristic to it than the normal Omnisphere 2 granular sound. So it's a little bit more kind of glitchy, a little bit more grainy, not quite as smooth. We've got it set to speed, and we've got the speed set to just under halfway. We've got the grain depth up just over halfway and the intensity quite high, a little bit of smoothing, full spread, and as you can see, we've got the detuning all the way down, so it's not going to be pitching the grains. So let's hear that now. So you can hear we're getting kind of a slightly more grainy sound. And it's definitely a little bit wider as well. Just adds a nice kind of quality to it. And if we switch off the legacy engine, you can hear what it would sound like if we had it with the normal Omnisphere 2 granular sound. completely different. Okay, so that's why we're using the legacy engine. It gives us, it's more reminiscent of the original sound, but it just breaks it up a little bit and gives it that kind of grainy quality. So then on the effects as well, we've simply got an imager here. So we've got the imager set to auto pan. The pan depth is set to just over halfway, and it's set to 2 bars. So this is going to basically pan around in the stereo field and give us a nice kind of stereo quality to it. So if you're wearing headphones, you can hear that working. And if you're not, I thoroughly recommend putting some on. Okay, so that's layer A. And then let's have a little look at layer B. So here we've got this sound source called photovoltaic cell. And this is another one of those kind of unusual sort of digital sound sources that they've created in Omnisphere. And there are loads of these. And the set Fractal 2 and in fact Fractal 1 as well are just kind of completely full of these sound sources because they're just absolutely fantastic for what I was doing with the set. So let's have a listen to that sound source. So you can hear we've got quite a soft sound source with this kind of clicky top. It's got a kind of tonal quality to it, but again, it's one of these kind of odd, quite lo-fi textural type sounds. So the first thing we're going to do with this is we're going to put the filter on. So you can see we've got a basic 12 dB low pass. We've got the cutoff set very low, a little bit of resonance there, and we've got the envelope set all the way to off. So this is not going to be controlled by the envelope. So it's just going to be filtering out the sound throughout our key press. So let's hear that. So we've used that filter to just kind of have that tonal quality without that sort of top edge there. Then we're going to use the granular engine as well. So this has got the same settings as we did on layer A. So we've still got it in legacy. We've still got it on speed mode with the speed quite high. We've got all the same settings down here as well. So that's adding a little bit of kind of stereo image to the sound as well. And it's giving us that kind of, again, we're getting a little bit of kind of a lo-fi randomized grainy sort of quality to the sound while keeping it quite kind of clean. So then on the effects, we've also got a precision comp, which just kind of flattens the sound a little bit and makes it a little bit kind of warmer. So there we go. By using that, you can kind of hear we've brought out that sort of lo-fi quality to it, and we've brought a little bit of depth to the sound. Okay, so now let's hear the 2 layers together then. So we're starting to get that kind of grainy quality to it. It's a lot kind of smoother than the original sounds. Using our filters, we've sort of brought out the tonal quality of both of the different sound sources, and we've gotten rid of some of the more kind of atonal sounds, whilst keeping some of them and using the granular engine to kind of bring them in and out every now and then. So next, let's have a look at the effects. So we're going to look at the aux effect, and I'm going to turn my aux return up. So we've got a little bit of send from both of our layers. So we've got both the layers coming in here. You'll see the first thing we've got is proverb. So we've got the mix set all the way to 100%. So all that's going to be sounding in this channel is reverb. It's going to be 100% wet. We've got the size turned down a little bit, the time turned almost all the way up, a little bit of pre-delay. We've got the density all the way up, and then over on this page we've also got the diffusion very high as well. So let's hear that. So you can hear we've got a really kind of long natural reverb tail there, which is adding a lot of kind of atmospheric quality to this patch. We've then got the flame distortion, which we've got set to the burn driver, and we've got a fair bit of gain applied, especially post, and just a little bit of filtering happening, low pass filtering. So you'll also notice as well, at the moment our mix is set to 0. That's because this is being modulated. So let's show our modulation. So the mix is being modulated by LFO1, and you can see we've got the mix being modulated quite a lot here. So let's unmute that, and you can see we're working as a random waveform here on our LFO. It's working legato, so it's going to play smoothly as we play our sound. We've got it in unipolar, so it's only sounding above the 0% point. We've got it synced as well, and our rate is set to 1/4. So this is going to be bringing some distortion in and out on that reverb, but it's going to give it a very kind of random, kind of grainy quality to it. So you can already hear it kind of breaking up that sound there. Especially when we reach this kind of top area here. And that gives us that kind of randomized quality that we want in a sound bed, because when we use these kind of random qualities, it works really well for creating movement, and we'd have to spend a lot of time to program in this kind of movement, but if we set it to random, we can create this constant movement where it just keeps going and keeps changing during our cue, which is great for sound beds because you don't want them to get too boring. Okay, so I'm just going to turn layer A down slightly as well, because we turned that up, so we don't want quite so much of that in the mix. So now we've got our patch. The last thing we need to do is we need to set up the mod wheel. So that's why we've got our imager here. So I'm going to switch the imager on, and I'm going to come over to our common as well. I'm going to ignore the studio cue because this is not actually doing anything. I just left that there when I created the patch because I'm a little bit sloppy sometimes. We've got another imager here, and then we've got the gain being controlled here. So as with some of my other patches, we're not actually controlling the panning or the stereo image or anything like that using these images. We're just using them as a kind of gain control utility. So let's have a look at our routing. So you can see our images on both the auxiliary effects and the common effects is being controlled by LFO2. So let's unmute that. And then we've got our mod wheel controlling the LFO2 depth. So let's come out of here and have a look at our LFO2. So you can see we've got it set to sawtooth wave, which is going to give us that kind of rhythmic quality to it. We've got it tempo synced as well, so that we are, creating that rhythm to our tempo. So it's nice and easy to sync it up to. And then we've got the rate set to an 1/8 note as well. And you can see at the moment we've got the depth set to 0, but because we've modulated that with the mod wheel, as soon as we open the mod wheel, we're going to get that rhythmic quality to it. There we go. So now we've got a kind of rhythm to the patch. And of course, because that rhythm is set to the mod wheel, we can bring that in and out as we like, which, this is an effect that I use quite a lot in my sound banks. And the reason for that is when you're creating underscore, especially, you want to keep it interesting, as we've already said. And a really good way of doing that is kind of adding rhythm and going from something that's quite smooth and adding a little bit of rhythm and kind of taking it out is a good way of swapping between something that's a bit smoother and something that has this kind of rhythmic tension to it. So we can sort of change the feel of what's happening with what's on screen quite easily. Okay, so that's how I created the patch in the abstract. The idea of this tutorial was to show you that, using what is in Omnisphere, you can create these really kind of creative sounds without too much difficulty. You just need to kind of play about and you can create some really awesome sounds. So, have a play about in the sound sources when you're creating patches like this and have a look at all the different kinds. I mean, there's, we've got thousands of sound sources in here, and there are a lot similar to these kind of pressure node 3 sort of reactor ensembles and digital kind of sounds here that can just make some really incredible things. So play about with it. Thank you for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this tutorial and you want to learn some more about sound design, there's a link in the description below that will take you to a page to sign up to receive my sound design tutorials for completely free through to your inbox. So that's going to be great if you want to kind of keep going with these tutorials and learn something new every single week. I've also included a link to my new set Fractal Part 2. In that, there's 100 patches in this kind of industrial lo-fi sound in all different types of sounds. And I will be making some more videos for some of these sounds as well in the coming months. Until next time, take care.